Hey, I'm Seth Payne, former Texans player, 10-year NFL veteran, and today we're going to watch DeMeco Ryans' press conference ahead of the Cardinals game. For those of you unacquainted with this, the questions are sometimes inaudible, so I do a synopsis of them as best as I can. This press conference starts in with DeMeco talking about how players and coaches need to handle some of the adulation and or criticism from the press.
Just as much as people talk great about you, if something goes wrong, they'll be talking bad about you the next day. So you can't ride that wave. And I teach our team, we don't ride the ups and downs of the season. We prepare the same way each and every week. And we go out and play our best football on Sunday. That's all that matters. We can't get caught up in the headlines because headlines don't win you games.
I'd say 100%. I think D'Amico is one of these coaches who genuinely doesn't see much of what's written about him. The problem with reading your own clippings is that a lot of times the media is wrong. So sometimes they'll be telling you that you're awful when you're actually playing pretty well. But then even the more poisonous version is when they say that you're playing awesome and you're actually being kind of mediocre. Then when you start siding with the media over what your own coaches are telling you, that can be an issue. Next question, supposedly, will maybe be about how he's going to handle linebacker Denzel Perryman's suspension. We'll see.
Were you surprised that the NFL had levied that suspension?
Okay, are you surprised about Denzel Perryman's 3-game suspension for a multitude of illegal hits over the years?
The suspension came out. That it is what it is. Well, Denzel is appealing it. We'll see what happens and what's the outcome of the situation later today.
I do think that both of the hits that he had this year, once against the Cardinals, or excuse me, once against the Colts, and then last week, obviously, versus the Bengals, there were instances where the offensive player lowered himself into danger. Like Zach Moss lowered his head as a running back. And then with Jamar Chase, I mean, if you watch it in real time, Jamar Chase just decided to drop and slide like he's a quarterback, which no defensive player would be expecting. And in real time, there really wasn't much time for him for Denzel Perryman to react. I understand that, look, the defensive player should just get in the habit of never lowering his helmet, but I do think that they should make allowances for when the offensive player makes it worse. Like, this was not an egregious example of targeting a defenseless guy.
Rush together when the assignment the other guy has really
And with our defense.
Okay, so I believe the question was about he wanted to have a further explanation of how the defensive line rushes as a unit together and that how that helps them individually and as a group.
And with our defensive line and how they rush, it all starts with our interior guys, right? We get pressure with our interior guys and our edges guys. Our edges, they thrive, right? But if guys aren't on the same page when it comes to communication, whether it's a game, stunts, blitzes, we just want all of our guys to be exactly where they're supposed to be, operating with precision in their footwork, their eyes, everything. It's all about being coordinated as four guys rushing together.
We saw that with Sheldon Rankins sacks. For interior guys especially, it's frustrating. If you're an interior guy and you get a good rush and one of the edge guys doesn't contain, it sucks. It sucks. So it was really nice to see in Sheldon Rankins' instance this last week with three sacks. You don't get that unless you've got a good coordinated effort and a tight compressed pocket. And Burrow was able to escape a few times, but they've done a really good job over these last couple of games of being unselfish.
I guess the Bengals guys had a few plays defensive.
To prevent explosive plays, we just have to do our job. And it's as simple as that. When we do our job, we play well, we were getting 3 and outs, getting off the field, right? When we had any drop off and not doing our job, that's when the explosives happened. That's when guys got out and plays were being made. So we just have to reel it in, and you have to be consistent. You have to stay consistent. You have to play together. It's all 11 playing together. When that doesn't happen for us, when it didn't happen in that game, that's when you saw explosive plays.
He's asked about how the Texans avoid allowing explosive plays. They had a couple receivers with over 100 yards in that game last week. Texans Cap pointed out the stats on this. The Texans did play in split safety looks a lot more than they have in previous weeks. So basically, think cover 2, cover 4. You can do that when your defensive line is rushing really well. That was a good sign out of the Texans defense. They did, these last couple weeks and really in the fourth quarter over the course of the season, they've had some letdowns that I'm sure DeMeco isn't stoked about. But there's certain things that they're doing better in unison now that I think the second half of the season, you're probably going to see different numbers for the Texans defense in a lot of ways.
You coach instinct and play call.
How do you coach instinct and play calling?
For me, you can't coach instincts. Guy either has instincts or he doesn't. Right? And for the play call, we try to put our guys in the best position as possible. But everything that we do, it's all about the players and them being able to make plays. Us as coaches, we step out of the way. We try to put them in the best position possible. But it's all about the players. They're the ones who make any play call come to life by what they're able to do out on the field.
You know how I feel about DeMeco and guys playing on instinct. It's that he does a really good job of not getting guys uptight. Sometimes coaches are their own worst enemy. When they're trying to motivate, they're doing it. If they're doing it in too harsh a way, they're actually decreasing guys' willingness to just play on instinct.
How do you build on what you guys started? You guys kind of progress last week with the run game.
Kim asked, how do you build on the run game, especially after last week? And I would add that the Cardinals, much like the Bengals, have been a bad run defense. Cardinals got it together in a lot of ways, maybe playing complementary football with Kyler Murray's return last week. But it is an opportunity again for the Texans to continue this momentum in the run game.
You just continue to run it as best you can. I think each week is different depending on the defensive structures and what your opponent presents to you and how well you run it. We were able to have some success last week. It just doesn't happen the next week. You got to go out and earn it. Right? When it comes to the run game, you have to be physical up front, starting with the offensive line. You have to create displacement, and the backs have to be physical, running the ball downhill. That's what Motor did last week. Our offensive line did a great job of creating space for him, and that's why we had success in the run game.
Devin Singletary, AFC Offensive Player of the Week, and a really good job of just getting into that flow. On the zone runs, you can really see where he is the one cut and go guy that's thinking about just getting vertical as fast as possible. I think that maybe ultimately Dameon Pierce's injury in the long run will be good for the team and also good for Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. I don't think this team was ready to have two different style running backs at the onset just because of the lack of cohesion on the offensive line. They needed to get into some kind of a flow. So maybe over these few weeks they'll capture and understand one element of the game that they're good at, and then maybe they can have a rhythm changer in Dameon Pierce and it can become a game plan by game plan thing. But for right now, like, they got a good thing going, and Devin Singletary is willing to lower his shoulder and do a lot of that cool Dameon Pierce stuff too.
That give a boost to the offense?
He's asked about the boost that Nico Collins might provide in being back. He was out of practice yesterday. Looked bouncy.
Yeah, we'll see where Nico is throughout the week, and Noah as well.
Yeah, Noah Brown was on the injury report. Derek Stingley not on the injury report yesterday. That was nice to see. In all, compressed injury report. The other notable absence on the injury report was Tank Dell. That little bastard. He got hit so freaking hard. I love him so much. I don't even feel like, sometimes at the beginning of training camp, I felt like, oh, this kid needs to be protected. He's so tiny. Looked like a junior high kid out there on the field. Now I'm kind of scared of him. That kid is tough as hell.
In the offseason about the S2 test.
I think he's asked here about the evaluation of CJ Stroud and perhaps what the S2 cognition test, how that factored into it. The Texans don't subscribe to the S2 cognition test. The Carolina Panthers, of course, they do.
And for me, with any evaluation of prospects, like, the thing is, you don't look at one thing and make a decision based off of one thing. It's, for me, you look at the tape and you watch CJ's film. You talk about playing quarterback. He's one of the best quarterbacks coming out in this draft based on the decision making on film, right? Speaking with him in person, getting to understand him, getting to know him better, personality, seeing how he treats others, seeing how his teammates love him, seeing the care they have for him, seeing how his coaches speak about him. Right? When you take all those things, right, into consideration, that's what helped me to make the decision.
I think the issue with the S2 cognition test is that, for one, like, whether it's the S2 cognition test or the 5-10-5 shuttle or like any other thing, there's a bunch of different variables they use to evaluate quarterbacks, but with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, I do wonder if maybe they were so close in so many regards. And on the one hand, look, yet CJ Stroud had more conventional body size. On the other hand, you've got Bryce Young, who's got this S2 cognition test. So one big balancing factor for CJ Stroud was the body size, body type. And then on the other side, you've got this test that's relatively new, not extremely well established. And what people in Carolina are wondering is, okay, how much did your very analytically minded owner, or at least presumably analytically minded owner, just because he's a hedge fund dude, well, how much did they overweigh that part of it? A lot of times those tests are best used to just more give you a picture of, hey, how does this guy learn? If we do draft him, what's the best way to work with him and everything? You start using it as the be all end all, and you're screwed.
Multiple players at every level continue to get better.
So John McClain there asked about the run defense, and he cited that they're eighth now. I think probably in terms of yards per game, yards per carry, they're actually much higher than that. So they've done a good job with the run defense. John just asked, how do you get better? How do you continue to get better at the rush defense despite all these injuries?
With our run defense, it's about all 11. It doesn't matter who's out there. It starts with our edge guys doing a great job. Will, JG has done a great job of setting the edge, first and foremost, not allowing the ball to get outside. And whoever steps in, safeties, backers, nickels, we expect all of our guys to swarm to the ball and tackle. So we're not expecting one guy to make a play. So that's how you play great run defense. It's all 11 guys keeping the ball inside, all 11 guys swarming to the football.
Arizona Cardinals, possibly a rejuvenated team, obviously, with the brand new quarterback to the 2023 Cardinals with Kyler Murray. DeMeco's defenses have struggled before when he was with San Francisco against mobile quarterbacks. Everybody has trouble with mobile defenses, or mobile quarterbacks. That's what makes mobile quarterbacks so damn good. The only thing that's wrong with mobile quarterbacks is that they get injured. If they could stay healthy 100% of the time, then it sucks, because you're going, instead of going 11 versus 10 in the run game, you're going 11 versus 11. Or instead of, hey, being able to get a good pass rush in 3 or 4 seconds, you got to rush the passer for 7 or 8 or 9 seconds. So I try not to be overly harsh when my team is facing a mobile quarterback and it feels like, they're not as good as usual. Like, yeah, that's why it sucks to face mobile quarterbacks. Texans versus Cardinals, a lot more to come. I'll get a preview out hopefully earlier this week than I did last week. Also, I got to address this. I have to address how much people are playing up JJ Watt's very much tongue-in-cheek comments about coming back to play versus the Texans. So look for that in the next couple days.